In the early hours of September 29, 2022, Mexico's National Defense Ministry, SEDENA, was hacked, resulting in a massive leak of sensitive information. This was not an isolated incident, but rather part of a larger wave of cyber attacks sweeping across Latin America, carried out by a mysterious group known as Guacamaya. As the digital landscape continues to evolve, the emergence of hacktivist groups like Guacamaya and the infamous Anonymous has sparked a heated debate about the boundaries of free speech and activism in the digital age. At the heart of this debate lies a complex web of motivations, ideologies, and actions that challenge traditional notions of collective politics. Anonymous, a decentralized group of activist and hacktivist individuals, has been at the forefront of this movement since its inception in 2003 on the image board 4chan. With no leadership and a loose, decentralized command structure, Anonymous has become synonymous with cyber attacks against governments, corporations, and institutions, earning them both praise and criticism. While some hail them as freedom fighters and digital Robin Hoods, others condemn them as cyber terrorists or a cyber lynch mob. But what drives these groups to engage in such activities? For Guacamaya, the motivation is rooted in anti-imperialism and environmentalism, with a focus on exposing the actions of transnational corporations and governments in Latin America. They claim to be fighting against extractivism, the armed forces, and the defense of natural resources and native communities. In an email to Motherboard, Guacamaya stated that their hacks are a form of struggle and resistance, aiming to reveal the truth and empower the people to take action. This sense of purpose is echoed by Anonymous, which has been involved in various high-profile attacks, including the hacking of HB Gary and the Westboro Baptist Church. One individual who has been closely associated with Anonymous is Jake Leslie Davis, also known as Topiary. A British hacktivist, Davis was involved in the attack on HB Gary and later became a key figure in the splinter group LulzSec. In an interview with The Guardian, Topiary described himself as an internet denizen with a passion for change, driven by a desire to challenge the status quo and bring about justice. However, his activities eventually caught up with him, and he was arrested in 2011, charged with unauthorized computer access and conspiracy to carry out a distributed denial-of-service attack. As the story of Guacamaya and Anonymous continues to unfold, it raises important questions about the role of hacktivism in modern society. Can these groups be seen as a form of digital vigilantism, taking on the powerful and corrupt, or are they simply a manifestation of chaos and destruction, threatening the very fabric of our digital landscape? The answer, much like the identity of these groups, remains shrouded in mystery. But one thing is certain: the emergence of hacktivist groups has redefined the boundaries of free speech and activism, forcing us to confront the complexities of the digital age and the power of collective action. But that's not the only intriguing aspect of this story. The fact that Guacamaya has been able to carry out such high-profile attacks, often with impunity, suggests a level of sophistication and organization that is rare in the world of hacktivism. This has led some to speculate about the true nature of the group and its connections to other hacktivist collectives. As we delve deeper into the world of Guacamaya and Anonymous, we may uncover more surprises, more twists and turns that challenge our understanding of the digital landscape and the players that operate within it. The attack on SEDENA, for example, was part of a larger operation known as Fuerzas Repressivas, which targeted the armed forces of several Latin American countries. This operation, like many others carried out by Guacamaya, was designed to expose the inner workings of these institutions, to reveal the secrets and lies that underpin their power. And it's not just governments that are being targeted. Corporations, too, are in the crosshairs, with Guacamaya and other hacktivist groups seeking to disrupt their operations and reveal their wrongdoing. As we navigate this complex and often treacherous landscape, it's clear that the stakes are high. The actions of Guacamaya and Anonymous have sparked a global debate about the role of hacktivism in modern society, with some hailing them as heroes and others condemning them as villains. But what's certain is that these groups have changed the game, pushing the boundaries of what is possible in the digital age and challenging us to rethink our assumptions about power, activism, and the nature of collective action. And as we move forward, one thing is clear: the world of hacktivism will continue to evolve, to adapt, and to surprise us, forcing us to confront the complexities of the digital age and the power of collective action. The story of Guacamaya and Anonymous is a testament to the power of collective action in the digital age. It shows us that even in the darkest corners of the internet, there are individuals and groups working tirelessly to bring about change, to challenge the status quo, and to fight for justice. And as we watch this story unfold, we're reminded that the digital landscape is a complex and multifaceted place, full of surprises and contradictions. But one thing is certain: the emergence of hacktivist groups like Guacamaya and Anonymous has redefined the boundaries of free speech and activism, forcing us to confront the complexities of the digital age and the power of collective action. But that's not the end of the story. As we delve deeper into the world of Guacamaya and Anonymous, we may uncover more surprises, more twists and turns that challenge our understanding of the digital landscape and the players that operate within it. The attack on Sedina, for example, was just one part of a larger operation, one that targeted the armed forces of several Latin American countries. And as we explore this operation in more detail, we may discover that there's more to the story than meets the eye. The world of hacktivism is a complex and often treacherous place, full of secrets and lies, and it's up to us to navigate this landscape, to uncover the truth, and to understand the implications of these actions. As we move forward, it's clear that the stakes are high. The actions of Guacamaya and Anonymous have sparked a global debate about the role of hacktivism in modern society, with some hailing them as heroes and others condemning them as villains. But what's certain is that these groups have changed the game, pushing the boundaries of what is possible in the digital age and challenging us to rethink our assumptions about power, activism, and the nature of collective action. And as we watch this story unfold, we're reminded that the digital landscape is a complex and multifaceted place, full of surprises and contradictions. But one thing is certain: the emergence of hacktivist groups like Guacamaya and Anonymous has redefined the boundaries of free speech and activism, forcing us to confront the complexities of the digital age and the power of collective action. As we delve deeper into the world of hacktivism, it becomes increasingly clear that the lines between activism and cybercrime are often blurred. Groups like Anonymous and Guacamaya have been known to push the boundaries of what is considered acceptable in the pursuit of their goals, leaving many to question the true nature of their intentions. But one thing is certain: the impact of their actions can be felt far and wide, with many corporations and governments scrambling to respond to the threats they pose. Take, for example, the case of Jake Davis, also known as Topiary, a British hacktivist who was once a key figure in the Anonymous collective. Davis was involved in some of the group's most high-profile attacks, including the hacking of H.B. Gary and the Westboro Baptist Church. But after serving time for his crimes, Davis has since turned his attention to more legitimate pursuits, working as a security researcher and helping corporations to identify and fix vulnerabilities in their systems. It's a curious transformation, to say the least, and one that raises interesting questions about the complexities of the human psyche and the power of redemption. But while Davis's story may be an intriguing one, it's also a reminder that the world of hacktivism is full of contradictions and paradoxes. On the one hand, groups like Anonymous and Guacamaya are often driven by a desire to expose corruption and bring about social change. On the other hand, their methods can be destructive and chaotic, causing harm to innocent parties and undermining the very fabric of our digital infrastructure. It's a delicate balance, to say the least, and one that requires a deep understanding of the complexities at play. As we explore the motivations behind Guacamaya's actions, it becomes clear that their goals are rooted in a deep-seated desire to challenge the status quo and bring about justice. The group's focus on anti-imperialism and environmentalism is evident in their targeting of transnational corporations and government agencies, and their desire to expose the truth about the workings of these powerful entities is admirable, if not always effective. But what's also interesting is the way in which Guacamaya's actions have sparked a wider conversation about the role of hacktivism in modern society. Is it a form of legitimate protest, or is it simply a form of cybercrime? The answer, of course, is not always clear-cut. One of the most significant hacks attributed to Guacamaya was the breach of the Chilean Joint Chiefs of Staff in 2022, which resulted in the resignation of General Guillermo Paiva Hernandez. The leak of national security data was a major embarrassment for the Chilean government, and it highlighted the vulnerability of even the most secure systems to determined hackers. But what's also notable about this incident is the way in which it sparked a wider conversation about the role of hacktivism in modern society. Is it a form of legitimate protest, or is it simply a form of cybercrime? The answer, of course, is not always clear-cut. As we continue to explore the world of hacktivism, it's becoming increasingly clear that the stakes are high, and the consequences of these actions can be far-reaching. The hacking of Mexico's National Defense Ministry in 2022, for example, was a major incident that highlighted the vulnerability of even the most secure systems to determined hackers. But what's also interesting is the way in which this incident has sparked a wider conversation about the role of hacktivism in modern society. Is it a form of legitimate protest, or is it simply a form of cybercrime? The answer, of course, is not always clear-cut. But that wasn't the strangest part. As we dug deeper, we found that Guacamea's actions were not just limited to hacking and leaking sensitive information. The group also seemed to be driven by a desire to challenge the dominant narratives and power structures that shape our world. They saw themselves as part of a broader movement, one that sought to bring about justice and equality in a world that is often marked by corruption and oppression. It's a complex and multifaceted ideology, to say the least, and one that raises important questions about the role of hacktivism in modern society. As we approach the midpoint of our journey, it's becoming clear that the world of hacktivism is far more complex and nuanced than we initially thought. The stakes are high, the consequences are far-reaching, and the motivations are often multifaceted and contradictory. But one thing is certain: the emergence of groups like Anonymous and Guacamea has forced us to confront the complexities of the digital age, and to rethink our assumptions about the nature of power and resistance in the 21st century. And it's here, at this pivotal moment, that we begin to see the true nature of hacktivism in all its complexity and glory. The philosophy of Anonymous, for example, offers a fascinating glimpse into the mindset of the hacktivist community. The group's emphasis on collective action, decentralized decision-making, and the rejection of traditional authority structures is a powerful reminder that the digital age has given rise to new forms of politics and activism. But it's also a reminder that these new forms of politics and activism are often messy, contradictory, and difficult to navigate. As Gabriella Coleman notes, the group's loose and decentralized command structure can make it difficult to gauge the intent and motive of thousands of participants, many of whom don't even bother to leave a trace of their thoughts, motivations, and reactions. As we continue to explore the world of hacktivism, it's becoming increasingly clear that the landscape is shifting rapidly. New groups are emerging, new tactics are being developed, and new challenges are arising. But one thing remains constant: the desire to challenge the status quo, to bring about justice and equality, and to create a more just and equitable world. It's a noble goal, to say the least, and one that raises important questions about the role of hacktivism in modern society. Is it a form of legitimate protest, or is it simply a form of cybercrime? The answer, of course, is not always clear-cut. But what's also clear is that the world of hacktivism is full of surprises and contradictions. Take, for example, the case of Operation Fuses Repressivas, a series of cyber attacks aimed at the armed forces of Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, and El Salvador. The operation was a major success for Guacamea, and it highlighted the group's ability to coordinate complex and sophisticated attacks. But it also raised important questions about the nature of violence and resistance in the digital age. Is it possible to use violence and intimidation as a means of bringing about social change, or are these tactics ultimately counterproductive? As we navigate the complex and often treacherous landscape of hacktivism, it's becoming increasingly clear that the stakes are high, and the consequences of these actions can be far-reaching. The hacking of major corporations and government agencies, for example, can have serious repercussions for the economy and national security. But it's also a reminder that the digital age has given rise to new forms of power and resistance, and that these new forms of power and resistance are often messy, contradictory, and difficult to navigate. As we move forward, it's clear that we need to rethink our assumptions about the nature of hacktivism and to develop new strategies for navigating the complex and often treacherous landscape of the digital age. As we delve deeper into the world of hacktivism, it becomes clear that the lines between activism and cybercrime are increasingly blurred. The case of Topiary, a British hacktivist, is a prime example of this. As a member of Anonymous and lulzsec, Topiary was involved in several high-profile hacks, including the attack on H.B. Gary and the defacing of government websites. But what's interesting is that after serving his time and staying off the internet for 2 years, Topiary is now a security researcher, disclosing bugs to corporations as part of their bounty programs. This raises an important question: can a former hacktivist turned security researcher really make a positive impact, or is this just a clever way to legitimize their past actions? But that's not the only intriguing aspect of Topiary's story. His involvement with lulzsec, a splinter group of Anonymous, is particularly notable. lulzsec's antics, including the hacking of Westboro Baptist Church and the Sony website, were seen as a form of digital vigilantism. And yet, despite the group's brazen actions, Topiary's own motivations were rooted in a desire for change, rather than mere mischief. As he said in an interview with The Guardian, "I'm an internet denizen with a passion for change." This sentiment echoes the philosophy of Anonymous, which emphasizes the importance of collective action and the need to challenge established power structures. However, the story of Guacamaya, a hacktivist group operating in Central and Latin America, adds another layer of complexity to the narrative. Guacamaya's actions, including the hacking of major corporations and government agencies, are motivated by a desire to expose the truth about exploitation and environmental degradation. Their targets include mining companies, oil corporations, and other entities that they see as responsible for perpetuating oppression and injustice. But what's striking about Guacamaya's approach is their emphasis on anti-imperialism and environmentalism, which sets them apart from other hacktivist groups. As they stated in an email to Motherboard, these hacks are another form of struggle and resistance. They are the continuation of an ancestral legacy, taking care of life. As we explore the world of hacktivism, it becomes clear that the stakes are higher than ever. The rise of groups like Guacamaya and Anonymous has led to a cat-and-mouse game between hackers and authorities, with each side trying to outmaneuver the other. But in the midst of this high-stakes game, there are also moments of unexpected cooperation. For example, the case of Jake Davis, aka Topiary, who is now working with corporations to disclose bugs and vulnerabilities, raises important questions about the potential for redemption and rehabilitation in the world of hacktivism. Can former hackers really turn their skills to good use, or are they simply being co-opted by the very systems they once sought to challenge? The story of Guacamaya's operation, Fuses Repressivas, a series of cyber attacks aimed at the armed forces of several Latin American countries, is another example of the complexities and contradictions of hacktivism. On the one hand, the operation can be seen as a form of digital resistance against oppressive regimes and corporations. On the other hand, it also raises questions about the potential consequences of such actions, including the risk of escalation and retaliation. As we consider the implications of Guacamaya's actions, we're forced to confront the darker side of hacktivism, where the lines between activism and cybercrime are constantly blurred. But that's not the only challenge facing hacktivists and authorities alike. The rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning is creating new opportunities for hackers to exploit vulnerabilities and launch sophisticated attacks. At the same time, it's also enabling authorities to develop more effective tools for tracking and prosecuting hackers. As we move forward, it's clear that the world of hacktivism will continue to evolve, with new players, new tactics, and new challenges emerging all the time. And yet, despite the many uncertainties and complexities, one thing is clear: the future of hacktivism will be shaped by the ongoing struggle between those who seek to challenge the status quo and those who seek to maintain it. As we consider the implications of this struggle, we're forced to ask a fundamental question: what does the future hold for hacktivism, and how will it shape the world we live in? Will groups like Anonymous and Guacamaya continue to push the boundaries of what's possible, or will they be co-opted or crushed by the forces of authority? The answer, much like the world of hacktivism itself, remains shrouded in uncertainty, leaving us to wonder what's the next big hack and who will be behind it.